Here's your money. I don't care about your business. I'm looking for a young lady.
I don't understand.
You don't keep them tidy.
Fuck you! That woman was my wife.
That's for slapping your wife.
Levon Cade is an ex-Royal Marine commando now working as a construction foreman for Garcia and Family Construction. The owner is Joe, his wife, Carla, and their daughter, Jenny Levon, has a close friendship with the family and is also a good leader to the workers. On site heists, he notices a group of men roughing up a worker, most likely mafia loan collectors. Picking up a bucket of nails, he fearlessly approaches and says,
"Excuse me, he needs to get back to work."
However, the goons dismiss him like a rat and continue teaching the worker a lesson. Big mistake on their part because Levon attacks. He beats them up like kids before sending them on their way. Having seen the fight, Jenny approaches him afterward, completely blown away by his abilities. She asks him to teach her, which makes him laugh. She delivers the food her grandma made for him, but he tells her she didn't see the fight. Jenny agrees, telling him to just have her back if she ever needs it. Before leaving later, Levon drives over to pick up his daughter, Mary, since it's his visitation day. She stays with Levon's wealthy father-in-law, Dr. Roth, who has custody and doesn't like Levon one bit. He feels Levon wasn't there when Mary's late mum needed him and won't still be there when Mary needs him. He tells Levon,
"You're an unsafe parent. You're a killer. You can't pretend that you're not."
Levon knows Roth is just baiting him for violence and doesn't give him the satisfaction of a reply. Instead, he just drives out with Mary. At a restaurant, Levon gives Mary a picture of her and her mum, which leaves her with mixed emotions. Later, Levon goes for a meeting with his custody lawyer, Matt. Apparently, the opposing counsel alleges Levon has untreated PTSD and brain trauma from his military service, making him at risk for violence. Levon is frustrated by this since his 22 years of service are now beginning to look like a crime. However, it even gets worse as they're requesting supervised visits and a reduction in visitation from 2 hours a week to 1 hour every 2 weeks. Levon is prepared to fight and tells Matt he has 10 grand saved. But Matt points out the fact he sleeps in his truck. Levon promises to fix that, but Matt wonders why Roth hates him so much. Levon shares that Roth thinks he's responsible for his daughter's passing. However, it was self-deletion, and Levon was overseas on deployment at the time. Since Roth has a strong legal and very expensive team, Matt feels the best they can do is negotiate surrender. Well, Levon isn't accepting that, and he brings out some cash, ready to go tooth and nail. That night, Jenny and her friends arrive at a club to celebrate the end of a semester. Levon, on the other hand, eventually gets a room to stay. Unfortunately, it seems Jenny and her friends have caught the attention of 2 Russian traffickers, Viper and Artemis stylishly takes a picture of them. The innocent, unsuspecting girls continue having fun, taking it to a bar for their last stop. Jenny asks the bartender, Johnny, for a table, and he manages to get her name after a flirtatious look. As she rejoins the girls, Johnny immediately sends a text, undoubtedly working with the traffickers. Nina, one of the girls, heads to the restroom to puke, and Jenny follows to help her. Of course, Johnny sends another text about this. After making sure Nina is okay, Jenny leaves the restroom. Unfortunately, she is kidnapped by Viper, and Artemis rushes into the van after them before they zoom off. On Monday, Levon arrives at work and is surprised to see the police leaving. Joe and Carla tearfully tell him Jenny is missing. They ask for his help in finding her since they know the police don't take cases like this seriously. Joe knows Levon was in the military, but he says,
I'm a different person now.
Trying to change his mind, they offer him $50,000, even adding $20,000 for expenses, but Levon still refuses, telling them it's no longer who he is. Later, Levon pays a visit to his old friend, Gunny, who's a blind ex-Marine raider. Levon tells him about Jenny, and Gunny feels he needs to go full on if he wants to save her. Levon reveals he told Jenny he had her back, and Gunny just says,
I miss you. I worry about you. But you didn't have to come down here and pretend that you needed my permission for something that you already made your mind up about.
Making Levon laugh. The next day, Levon visits the Garcia residence and finds Joe watching a video of Jenny playing the piano. He tells Joe his family needs hope, but Joe can't find it in himself to face them the way he is. When Levon's wife passed and he left the Marines, a lot of people would have given up on him, but not Joe. He and his family were patient with Levon, and due to this, Levon has taken them as his family too. He promises to bring Jenny home, making Joe cry in faith and relief. The next day, Levon begins his investigation, gaining several reports. He discovers the bar Jenny was last seen in and heads over there. Observing from the shadows, he sees Johnny sneakily selling drugs to people. He goes out towards the back to take a look and takes a picture. Much later, after Johnny locks up for the night, he gets into his car and begins driving home. Unaware of the tracker attached to his tire, Levon, who's still waiting, follows him from a distance. When Johnny arrives home, he begins preparing his drugs while Levon takes out the tracker from his car. He picks the lock and gains access inside. Johnny reaches for his gun, but Levon aims his shotgun at him, stopping him in his tracks. He asks about Jenny, showing Johnny her picture, but Johnny nonchalantly denies knowing anything. Levon just says,
People lie. Do you lie, Johnny? I don't trust people. I trust biology. We're all wired the same.
Johnny continues with his drugs like he doesn't care, but Levon springs into action. He ties him up in the bathtub, uses a towel to cover his face, and opens the tap on him, causing Johnny to feel like he's drowning. Johnny desperately tells him the guys are next level, and they wipe out entire bloodlines, but Levon wants names. Just then, he hears the voice of two men calling out, for Johnny Levon picks his gun, but Johnny uses the opportunity to scream, alerting his friends as they draw out their own guns. Using Johnny as a shield, Levon makes him open the door. What greets them is a round of bullets from the guys, which Johnny unfortunately takes Levon, then shoots the two guys, ending them instantly. With his gloves on, he checks one of the bodies and realizes they are Russians from the tattoo. He then collects the bundles of cash from their pockets, grabs his gun, and leaves. Meanwhile, in her cell, Jenny heartbreakingly whispers,
"I'm sorry, Mom. Sorry for shielding myself in a blanket of accomplishment. I wish you could have seen me, who I really am, strong like you."
The next day, Levon watches Johnny's house from his truck and notices a man and two guys arrive. The man is Wolo Kolisnik, a high-ranking captain working for Simon Karchenko, an enforcer of the Bratva, a Russian mafia crime syndicate. The two guys are Danya and Vanko, sons of Simon. They think the guys shot each other, but Wolo notices something is off. The $90,000 is missing, and the bullet wound is from a shotgun. Afterward, a cleaning crew comes in to get rid of the bodies while Levon still watches from his truck, taking notes. He gets a video call from Mary, who, by the way, isn't supposed to be calling him from school. Well, she just wants to say hi and also tell him she loves him, making Levon happy. As the call ends, Levon refocuses his attention on the task ahead and sees Wolo leaving with the guys. He immediately follows from a distance until they arrive at Wolo's house. Levon goes through the woods, setting up his camera to watch Wolo inside. While working, Wolo's wife tries to make him come to bed with her, but he gives her a dirty slap instead. Levon watches all this quietly, also hearing their voices from his audio. The wife leaves the house in anger, and afterward, Levon gains access inside, surprising Wolo. He pours the hot coffee from the espresso machine on his face and knocks him out with a punch. Later, Levon has Wolo tied to a chair by the pool while he eats nonchalantly. He pushes his chair backward, tilting Wolo halfway toward the pool as a long chain stops the chair from sinking inside. Wolo tells him the group he belongs to, claiming he has a high rank, but Levon knows about the Bratva. Wolo threatens Levon, but Levon doesn't even see it as anything. He gives him a slap instead, saying,
That's for slapping that woman this morning.
Wolo tells him she's his wife, which earns him another hot slap. Levon flings the money into the pool, telling Wolo he's not a thief. He shows him Jenny's picture, telling him she was kidnapped. Wolo mentions a name, Dimi, and angrily speaks Russian. Levon just asks for Jenny, but Wolo wonders who and what Levon is. Seeing he's getting nowhere with him, Levon cuts the chain and Wolo falls into the pool, drowning while Levon watches. Outside, Levon translates what Wolo said in Russian through his phone and wonders who Dimi is. Later, the same cleaning crew from earlier arrives at the house. Simon also arrives, and Danya and Vanko greet him respectfully. Inside, they watch the CCTV, and Simon questions Levon's motives. Apparently, Dimi is Wolo's son, who prefers mischief over hard work. Instructing Danya and Vanko, Simon says,
Find this man and bring him to me.
The next day, Levon makes a call to his contact at the DEA and asks about Dimi, thinking he's an associate of Wolo. The agent tells him Wolo is a high mafia captain and not someone he wants to mess around with. Well, that's too late. Levon tells him Dimi might be involved in human trafficking, asking him to check and see if he can get a hit. The agent tells him about a particular bar where they sell drugs for the Russians, suggesting he visits the place. Later that evening, Levon heads there and orders a beer. In the security room, Artemis watches the screen while a man named Dougie approaches her. She notices Levon and tells Dougie she doesn't like him since he looks like a cop. With the high-tech spy camera, she also realizes he has a gun in his pocket, and Dougie goes out to confront him. Levon stylishly shows him the money he's carrying, and Dougie tells him to follow him inside. There he meets Dutch, the person in charge. Dutch asks him about the gun, and Levon tells him it's just a safety precaution. However, Artemis whispers in Dutch's ear, saying Levon is a cop. Levon denies, but Dutch asks him to bring out everything in his pockets. Levon disagrees, making Dutch signal his biker gang to deal with him. However, this is a piece of cake for Levon, and he easily takes them all down in a fight without breaking a sweat. Dutch is impressed and proceeds to shake his hand, saying,
Look at those bricks. You ain't a cop. You're a working man.
He wonders if Levon was a soldier, and Levon just tells him he did what it says, his part. Dutch was also a soldier, and they sit to discuss. Levon tells him he wants to buy drugs, bluegrass precisely. Dutch wonders why he's come directly to them, but Levon continues his lie, saying his Chicago connection has gone MIA and he doesn't have time to waste. Dutch believes him, and they settle on $5,000 per half pound. Dutch tells him to go to a particular cafe the next morning with the money, and Levon leaves. As arranged, he arrives there the next morning and sees Dougie and Artemis having breakfast. Artemis aims her gun under the table, but Levon just gives her the money. She throws him a burner phone, and Dougie tells him he'll get a call telling him where his drugs are. Levon stands up to leave, but warns Dougie about playing games first. While driving away in his car, he gets a call, and Dutch tells him the drug is under his seat. Levon sees it truly there, and Dutch tells him to keep the phone so they can talk more business. Upon getting to a bridge, Levon tosses the drug into the river before driving off. That night, Artemis and Viper deliver Jenny to a client. Apparently they work for Dimi, and the client pays them the agreed sum of money. The client goes inside to have his time with Jenny, but comes out all bloodied soon after. Jenny has bitten his cheek, and the man is angry since she was supposed to be asleep. He furiously orders them to take her out. In his room, Levon pastes all his leads on the wall, but gets a call on the burner phone. It's Dutch, and he wants to introduce him to someone if they continue their business. He tells Levon it's precautionary measures because of the feds. He says,
I'm gonna shoot you an invite for a sit-down. Bring your money and wear a suit.
Guess Levon's plan is working. The next day, he heads for the meeting and is allowed to meet Dutch and Dimi after a quick search. He gives Dutch the money, and Dutch tells him to turn off his phone. Dimi properly introduces himself, and Levon introduces himself as Bill. Dimi asks for a driver's license, and Levon drops it on the table. A guard comes back with the license and tells Dimi it checks out. Dimi shakes Levon, and Dutch slides him the briefcase of drugs. Dimi tells him to text the eggplant emoji on the burner phone whenever he needs resupply. He says they'll do more business if he likes what's in the case before dismissing him. Levon coldly discards the drugs inside a toilet. Back in his room, he looks through the pictures of Jenny and her friends in the club, noticing Viper. Accessing Johnny's phone, he sees the messages and also pictures of Johnny and Viper. He sees Dutch's bar as the location. Later, he heads there, but hides inside his car, at a corner behind the trees. Unfortunately, Artemis locates him with the high-tech spy camera, and reports this. Levon realizes he's been caught, and quickly comes down as two cars pull up. Danya and Vanko come down, heading straight to his car with their guns drawn. Levon manages to steal a bike and zoom off, but Artemis tells the men about this and they give chase. They open fire, but Levon luckily doesn't get hit. After some minutes of intense chase, Levon loses his balance on the bike and crashes into a police car. Unfortunately, this isn't a good thing at all, seeing as the corrupt officers are under the Russians' payroll. They knock out Levon, and he's taken away by Danya and Vanko. Levon regains consciousness and finds himself in a moving van. Danya asks,
How do you know Dimi? What is your business with Dimi?
Levon recognizes them, and they tell him Wolo was their uncle. Vanko begins tying his legs, but Levon attacks, causing a fight to break out. The driver notices and begins speeding. They continue struggling, with Levon getting an upper hand over the two clowns. The driver gets shot, causing the van to lose control, tumble sideways, and almost fall inside the river. Levon gets a hold of the gun and quickly shoots the two men, sending them to the same place as the driver. He then comes down from the van before pushing it all the way into the river. Later, Simon painfully identifies his sons lying lifelessly on cold slabs and orders his men to convene the war council. Viper and Artemis meet up with Dimi, who's extremely displeased with them over the Jenny incident. The client got 36 stitches to reattach his cheek, and Dimi lost $200,000. The client wants Jenny murdered, and Dimi also wants her gone, yelling at them to leave. Simon presents the matter before the war council, and they assign two men, Karp and Nestor, to find Dimi and get answers. In no time, Dimi is found having the time of his life in a club, but the party ends abruptly when Karp releases several bullets into the air. Simon reveals,
Your father is dead, tied to a chair, drowned in his pool.
Dimi feels this is good news, but when Simon says,
The man who killed him murdered my sons.
Dimi is devastated. He has no idea about this since nobody tells him anything. He feels the Brotherhood treats him like he's radioactive. Nestor shows him a picture of Levon, and Dimi instantly recognizes him. He reveals he bankrolls a biker gang with meth connections, and they introduce him to buyers with real cash. Now really scared, he admits he met Levon for 5 minutes and shows Simon the picture of his license. Simon tells him Levon is hunting him, then leaves with his men. With the help of a hacker, Levon's personal information is dug up. The next morning, Roth peacefully practices his yoga, but his peace is interrupted by Karp and Nestor, leaving the old man at a loss for words. While driving, Levon gets a call from Mary's school and is informed that no one has come to pick her up. He arrives in no time and picks her up. On their drive, she wonders where Roth is, since it's unlike him to be late. Though Levon hasn't gotten through to him, he assures Mary he's fine. After confirming her trust in him, he admits that some bad people are after him and he doesn't want anyone he loves to get hurt. He asks her to check for Roth's location, since she shares hers with him, and she realizes he's at home. Levon quickly turns the car around, and when they arrive, they see part of the house in flames. Levon instructs Mary to wait by the car, then rushes inside. Thankfully, he finds Roth, who's been beaten and tied up, and immediately carries him outside. Levon admits the people were Russian mafia, and Roth tells him they were looking for him. The man has found more reason to hate Levon, and he says,
This happened because of you. Violence follows you like a cloud.
Mary reminds him Levon could have left him in the house but saved his life instead, making Roth feel guilty. Levon tells him to go to the hospital where he'll be safe, while he takes care of Mary. The paramedics arrive and Roth expresses his thanks to Levon before he leaves with Mary. Guess the man can be thankful after all. Levon takes Mary to Gunny's house, and he and his wife, Joyce, happily welcome them both. Afterward, Gunny and Levon sit outside to talk as Gunny realizes the situation has gotten ugly. He wonders if Levon can really find Jenny, but Levon is more than determined. Gunny decides to help and takes Levon to his gun room, giving him high-quality weapons for his fight. Afterward, Levon puts the bags in his trunk as he prepares to leave. Mary doesn't want him getting in trouble since she barely sees him, but he promises to return. He gives her a patch that contains the US and UK flags, saying,
We're to hold on to this. Coming back for that.
This makes her a bit relieved, and he envelops her in a warm hug, assuring her of his love before driving off. Meanwhile, Viper and Artemis drive Jenny away to carry out their task, but Jenny manages to cause an accident before escaping the car. They follow in an intense chase, opening fire on her. Fueled by adrenaline and the desire to escape, Jenny manages to untie her hands and run like never before. Viper and Artemis soon lose her completely, making them extremely frustrated. Seems nothing will stop Dimmy from unleashing his wrath on them. This time, Jenny comes across a police car and immediately runs towards it, happy she's been saved. Unfortunately, it's none other than the two corrupt officers, and they take her right back to the lion's den. Just as Viper and Artemis are about to finish her, they get a video call from the client. After seeing she's alive, he tells them he wants a second chance with her tonight for $1 million. Viper agrees, assuring him he'll get her cleaned up and ready, but the client tells him he wants her dirty instead. Jenny just sits in the dirty pond they've thrown her, hopeless and tired of her situation. Levon arrives at Dimmy's location and swiftly takes down the guards one by one. By the time the ones outside notice this, Levon throws a grenade and a fight breaks out. He takes care of all the guards before going for Dimmy, who's cowardly hiding with a woman under the table. Dimmy holds the woman hostage, pointing a gun to her head to stop Levon. However, what he doesn't see coming is Levon precisely shooting his hand, creating a clean hole. He loses grip on the gun and woman, making Levon tell her to take Dimmy's money and run. With her gone, Levon shows Dimmy a picture of Jenny, asking where she is. Dimmy just laughs and wonders why Levon is risking everything for her. To answer that, Levon simply says,
Because I told her I had her back.
Scared to die, Dimmy agrees to give him Jenny's location. Levon takes him along and while driving shows him a picture of Viper. Dimmy reveals him as chief of the Human Resource Department and recruiter for special projects. Such a mighty title for trafficking. Dimmy makes the mistake of calling Jenny a whore, earning him a very hard punch in the face. They soon arrive at the location and Levon takes Dimmy out of the car. With his gun aimed, he asks why Jenny, wondering who decides. Dimmy nonchalantly says,
Viper goes to club, takes pictures of pretty girls. I send them to clients, they make choice. Meeting is arranged. This is my specialty service.
Levon reminds him the girls are humans, but Dimmy has no regard for that. He's only after the money. Not wanting to waste any more time on Dimmy, Levon kicks him into a small pond, then shoots him twice in the head with the silencer on. He takes his weapon from the truck, straps himself, and heads for battle. Inside, men and women have a good time playing pool and having conversations, including the client. Jenny hopelessly plays her signature piece on the piano, while Levon silently begins taking out the guards, one by one. Meanwhile, Dutch gets word of Levon's actions, learning he's on the way to Dimmy's trap house. Well, the man is already there. Dutch grabs his gun, assembles his biker gang, and they all head out armed to get Levon. Levon gains access into the house through the back, while Artemis and Viper drag Jenny away from the piano. They chain her hands above her head, then leave to get the client. The man picks up a knife, telling Jenny he wonders how she looks on the inside. Thankfully, Levon throws a grenade inside the house, causing an explosion that stops the client's mission. A gunfight breaks out, and Levon begins taking out the guards while evading getting shot himself. The guests run out of the house for their lives as Dutch and his gang arrive. The gunfight gets intense as they join in, but Levon continues to take them down with his sharp skills. Jenny tries screaming, but Artemis covers her mouth, pointing a gun at her throat. With his gun aimed and a voice that doesn't sound the least confident, Viper assures the client everything is under control. Well, newsflash, nothing is. Levon finishes off the last of the gang, but Dutch comes for him. They begin an intense fight, but Levon gets the upper hand and drives a knife into Dutch's throat. He tells him his fight was never with him, and Dutch weakly says he knows, urging him to finish it. Levon does, before closing Dutch's lifeless eyes. He picks up his rifle and manages to locate Jenny through her scream. The client boldly faces him and asks,
"How dare you come in here?"
But he instantly gets a wicked shot in the chest, the force making him somersault into a brick tub. Viper and Artemis begin panicking, and Viper shoots at Levon until he runs out of bullets. Levon just dodges, then comes in with his rifle pointed at Viper. He gives him a hard punch, landing him on the ground. Artemis lunges for Jenny, but Jenny kicks her twice, making her bash her head on the bricks. Levon continues giving Viper the beating of his life, making him cry out for his mommy. Fueled by adrenaline, Jenny takes dominance over Artemis and locks her neck in a tight grip with her knees. Levon finishes Viper off by using his elbow to snap his neck, while Jenny succeeds in snapping Artemis's neck with her knees. Just then, Kerp and Nestor arrive. Levon breaks Jenny from her bonds and tells her to follow him closely. The corrupt officers arrive, but they don't even get the chance to come down, because Kerp opens fire on their car with his machine gun, causing the car to explode in flames. Well, their karma has definitely come for them. Nestor spots Levon, and he opens fire, making Levon hide with Jenny. Kerp also joins the shooting. Levon aims his gun overhead, and using the camera, delivers a clean shot to Kerp, ending him on the spot. Nestor begins to reload, but Levon throws a grenade in front of him, taking him out as well. He then places the rifle on the pool table, paying his respects before leaving the house with Jenny. Of course, she doesn't forget to give the building her double middle fingers. They both drive off on a bike, while Simon, who stands by a corner watching, makes a call. It's the boss, and Simon tells him Levon escaped with the girl. However, the boss just says,
None of this was business.
The devil has what he came for. Let him go.
Simon refuses, making the boss tell him they'll end him instead. He feels the Brotherhood comes before Simon's personal vengeance, making sure Simon understands. With the call disconnected, Simon lets out a very painful scream in frustration. Oh well. The next morning, Levon returns Jenny home as promised, making the family burst out in excitement. Carla and Joe tearfully hug their daughter in relief before hugging Levon and expressing their deepest thanks. Seeing everything restored back to normal, Levon takes his leave. He arrives at Gunny's, and Mary rushes to him with a big hug. He kisses her forehead, then goes to shake Gunny, who welcomes him back. He also hugs Joyce, who's happy to see him in one piece. Sitting down, he tells Gunny he found Jenny, then joins them for breakfast as one family. Holding him, Gunny says,
Welcome back, brother. You're home.
Making Levon smile. And that, my friends, is how it ended. If you've made it to the end, hit the like button, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next recap.